There are some crazy comebacks in NBA history, like the time one team erased a 36-point deficit or when a single shot saved a dynasty. These are 10 of the wildest, most unbelievable comebacks ever. At number 10, we got Russell Westbrook making Drake regret ever opening his mouth. It all started with the Lakers down 3 and 25 seconds left on the clock. Drake, sitting courtside, thought it was the perfect time to start chirping in Westbrook's ear like he was rehearsing for a diss track. At first, it seemed to work. Russ pulled up for the tie and bricked it off the side of the backboard. Even LeBron looked like he was ready to trade him on the spot. With just 12 seconds left, Toronto had the chance to ice the game with free throws. But Westbrook wasn't about to go out looking like a fool. He did the unthinkable. Stole the inbound, pulled up, and drilled the clutch three to tie it up. Brody hit the ugliest game-saving shot ever and shut Drake up like they had real beef. Then, in overtime, Westbrook and LeBron sealed the deal with a W. That was insane. But at number 9, we got one of the sneakiest comebacks in NBA history, brought to you by the pettiest player in NBA history, Chris Paul. With OKC down 2 and less than 2 seconds on the clock, it looked like Karl Anthony Towns was about to ice the game at the free throw line. But instead of praying for a miracle, Chris Paul got creative. Because when it comes to being petty, nobody does it better. See, NBA rules say jerseys must be tucked in at all times. And earlier in the game, the refs had already warned Jordan Bell about his. So CP3 decided to snitch like a little brother and forced the refs to call a delay of game on Minnesota, leading to a technical free throw for OKC. Danilo Gallinari knocked it down, cutting the lead to 1. But Cat still had a chance to put Minnesota up by 2. He made his shot, and with just 1 second left, OKC pulled off the impossible. Adams launched a full-court pass, and Schroeder caught it, scored, and sent the game to overtime. From there, the Thunder finished the job, proving that sometimes being petty is the ultimate strategy. But at number 8, Luka and the Dallas Mavericks pulled off a comeback so wild it rewrote the NBA record books. Doncic was already torching the stat sheet with a 40-point triple-double, but with the Mavs staring down an L, that didn't mean a thing to him. So he went nuclear. Dallas kept hitting clutch shots to stay alive, but still down 7, Luka knew he had to take over. He fought his way to the line, dropping his 50th point with 15 seconds left. But the real magic was just getting started. With the Mavs down 3, Luka needed a miracle, and he made it happen. He missed the free throw, grabbed his own rebound in midair, and somehow put it back to force overtime. He was celebrating like a kid at recess, and the Mavs weren't about to let this comeback go to waste. Then in overtime, Luka finished the job, becoming the first player ever to drop a 60-point triple-double. This wasn't just a win, it was history in the making. But at number 7, T-Mac pulled off one of the craziest last-second comebacks of all time. In 2007, the Rockets were down 8 to the Spurs, and fans were already heading for the exits. But McGrady wasn't done yet. He came down and splashed a 3, but San Antonio pushed the lead back to 7. So T-Mac upped the difficulty, draining a 4-point play to keep Houston alive. Then, with the Spurs still up 2, Tracy pulled up from deep again, drilling another 3 to make it a one-possession game. And now, the Spurs were shook. One slip-up later, T-Mac had the ball with a chance to win it all. McGrady for the win. Got it. In just 35 seconds, Tracy McGrady scored 13 points and became an instant legend. But at number 6, the Timberwolves weren't just playing to win. They were talking mad trash while making history. In the 2024 playoffs, Minnesota found themselves down 3-2 against the defending champs, the Denver Nuggets. It looked like Denver was cruising back to the finals, but Anthony Edwards had other plans. After Game 5, he let everyone know exactly how this was going to go down. I'll see y'all motherfuckers for Game 7. Minnesota backed it up, dominating Game 6 and forcing a winner-take-all showdown. But by halftime of Game 7, it looked like all that talk was about to age horribly. Denver was up 20 points, and no team in NBA history had ever come back from that in a Game 7. Even worse, Ant was struggling hard, but the Wolves refused to go out like that. They fought back. Minnesota kept climbing until history was rewritten. The Timberwolves completed the first ever 20-point comeback in a Game 7 and eliminated the defending champions. And when asked about Minnesota postgame, Ant dropped a legendary quote, "I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years. Bring your ass." One comeback turned Anthony Edwards into an icon. At number 5, imagine going up against the 2019 Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant, fresh off back-to-back championships and rolling into the playoffs as the number 1 seed. Meanwhile, the Clippers barely scraped in as the 8th seed. Everyone thought this series was a sweep waiting to happen. And after Game 1, it sure looked that way. By Game 2, the Warriors turned it into a clinic, raining threes until they built a 94-63 lead. Down 31 points against one of the greatest teams ever, most squads would have packed it up. But the Clippers weren't built like that. Lou Williams started cooking, Montrezl Harrell owned the paint, and Patrick Beverley was in KD's head like rent was due. Durant got so frustrated, he fouled out, leaving the Warriors without their biggest weapon. And in the final minutes, a rookie stepped up to deliver the dagger. Clippers take the lead, 135-131. The largest comeback in playoff history was complete, proving that grit and heart can shake even the most dominant teams. At number 4, Derrick Rose was destined to be the face of the NBA, but his journey was filled with heartbreak after heartbreak. Yet through all the pain, one game cemented his place as one of the most electrifying players the league has ever seen. Back in 2011, a 21-year-old D. Rose became the youngest MVP in NBA history, dominating with his speed, agility, and insane handles. He was supposed to be the future of the league. But in the 2012 playoffs, everything changed. Rose is down, holding his knee. A torn ACL forced him to miss an entire season. And just when fans were ready for his comeback, tragedy struck again. Another injury, another season lost. Yet Rose kept fighting. In 2015, he hit one of the most iconic buzzer beaters of his career. Rose fires away, bang! It seemed like he was back, but injuries wouldn't stop haunting him. Turnovers, setbacks, trades, even his hometown team, the Bulls, moved on from him. At one point, Rose considered retiring. He could have walked away with millions, but he loved the game too much. And then, in 2018, he delivered a performance that brought the entire NBA to tears. A career-high 50 points against the Utah Jazz. Rose attacks, gets the bucket. 50 points for Derrick Rose. Overcome with emotion, he broke down in tears post-game. It means everything, man. I worked my ass off. No matter how many times he was counted out, Derrick Rose's legacy was unshakable. Number 3. Coming back from 3-1 in the playoffs is already legendary, but doing it twice in the same postseason? That's straight up unheard of. In the 2020 NBA playoffs, the Denver Nuggets didn't just fight for survival, they made history. Round 1, Denver versus Utah. The Nuggets looked dead in the water, down 3-1 against the Utah Jazz. Even when Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell dropped 50 points each, something that had never happened before in NBA playoff history, it wasn't enough. Murray for 3, bang, 50-piece. Utah had the series on lockdown, but Murray wasn't going out like that. He dropped another 50 bomb in Game 6, forcing a Game 7. The final seconds were nerve-wracking. Mike Conley had the game-winning shot in the air. For the win, Spawn, and it rims out. The Nuggets survived and completed the first comeback. But they weren't done. Round 2, Denver versus the Clippers. The Clippers were different. A super team built to win it all. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Lou Williams. They weren't supposed to lose this series. And for 4 games, they dominated. Denver was down 3-1 again. Game 5, 15-point deficit. Game 6, 19-point deficit. It looked over, but Denver kept fighting. By Game 7, the Clippers were completely shaken. The Nuggets locked them down, holding them to a laughable 33% shooting. The pressure was so intense, Paul George threw up the most embarrassing shot of his career. George, way off, hits the side of the backboard. And just like that, the Nuggets made NBA history. The first team ever to come back from 2 separate 3-1 deficits in a single playoff run. That might never happen again. But speaking of impossible comebacks, wait till you hear about the biggest one ever. At number 2, a 36-point deficit isn't something you just come back from, unless you're the Utah Jazz in 1996. A nightmare start, facing the Denver Nuggets. The Jazz were getting absolutely embarrassed. By the second quarter, they were down 70-34. Nick Mata and his team up 70-36, and we have, folks, a smattering of boos as the Jazz walk off the court. At halftime, Denver held a 34-point lead, and the game felt over. The Nuggets were on fire, barely missing any shots, but the Jazz weren't done. The greatest comeback ever, led by Karl Malone and Jeff Hornacek, Utah came out of the locker room with a different energy. Third quarter, the deficit was cut in half. Fourth quarter, Utah was within striking distance. Denver started falling apart, and before they knew it, the game was tied. And when the final buzzer sounded, the Jazz had completed the impossible, a 107-103 victory after trailing by 36 points. That wasn't just a win, that was basketball history. We've hit number 1 on our list, where the craziness reaches the limit. This wasn't just a comeback, this was legacy-defining basketball. 28 seconds from elimination. It was Game 6 of the 2013 NBA Finals, and the Miami Heat were down 3-2 in the series against the San Antonio Spurs. With just 28 seconds left, Miami trailed by 5 points. Even the Heat fans had given up, leaving the arena early. San Antonio now 28 seconds away from a championship. The impossible begins then. LeBron James hit a clutch 3 to cut the lead to 2. Back out to James, another 3. It's good. But Miami still needed a miracle, and it almost slipped away until Chris Bosh came in clutch. The shot that saved a dynasty. With just seconds left, LeBron missed a 3, but Bosh grabbed the rebound and kicked it out to Ray Allen. Rebound Bosh, back out to Allen, history, bang! Allen's insane corner 3 tied the game, sending it to overtime, finishing the job. With momentum on their side, the Heat dominated OT and forced a Game 7, where LeBron James delivered one of the greatest finals performances ever, securing his second NBA title. This was more than a comeback. This was basketball immortality.